Hi everyone, my name is Beta Mandius, Sovereign of Controllers. From Pixels Past, ye players forge what's to come. Today, we look into the digital depths of Swamp Thing, tracing his journey through gaming history, reflecting on what worked, what didn't, and how the legend himself could rise again. Back in December of 1992, THQ released Swamp Thing for the Nintendo Entertainment System, a side-scrolling platformer developed by Imagineering Inc. The game was based on DC's legendary horror character and took cues from the short-lived Swamp Thing animated series. It wasn't released alongside the show. The series had already came and gone a year earlier, but it was clearly designed to ride the same wave of merchandising. The goal was to bring the character to a younger audience through an NES tie-in. Unfortunately, the game didn't quite capture what made the character special, and most players agreed it felt more like a missed opportunity than a true debut. The NES version of Swamp Thing was developed by Imagineering Inc., a New Jersey studio best known for licensed tie-ins like Bart vs. the Space Mutant and Home Improvement.
I supercharged my riding mower! Oh no! I've killed Wilson! Looks like it's back to jail for me.
Oh my god.
According to the official credits, Dan Kitchen and Barry Marks handled concept and design, with David Lubar contributing to programming and design. Glenn Schofield, who would later go on to co-create Dead Space, and Gregory Facone led the graphics team, while Mark Van Heck composed the soundtrack. The game reused the engine from The Simpsons' Bart vs. the Space Mutants, a common practice for Imagineering to save time on licensed projects. No budget figures were ever published, but its December 1992 release near the end of the NES lifecycle suggests a modest, late-generation production built to capitalize on the Swamp Thing animated series and toy line. The story follows Swamp Thing, as he sets out to stop Anton Arcane from achieving his plans for global domination. A twisted scheme powered by stolen beakers of the biorestorative formula. If Arcane succeeds, the natural world itself could fall under his control. To prevent that, Swamp Thing sets out across 8 perilous regions: the Swamp, Skull Village, Graveyard, Chemical Factory, Dark Forest, Junkyard, Toxic Dump, and Arcane's Lab. Each is crawling with Arcane's mechanical horrors and spreading rot, from toxic rivers to crumbling machinery. Along the way, Swamp Thing battles Arcane's robotic minions and mutated unmen, each step taking him closer to the heart of his enemy's lair. Only by defeating these twisted creations and reclaiming the stolen formula can he restore the planet's balance, and prove that even in decay, the green endures. Gameplay follows a traditional side-scrolling structure. Players guide Swamp Thing through hazardous landscapes, filled with traps, toxins, and Arcane's grotesque creations.
Brother, what's that, brother?
From robotic drones to insectoid mutants and the twisted unmen, he can punch, crouch, and perform short jumps. And he collects sludge power-ups to unleash ranged bioblasts. The biorestorative formula canisters found throughout the levels replenish energy, a nod to Alec Holland's scientific origin. This energy fuels his transformation ability, so managing it is essentially for survival. Separate 1-up icons provide extra lives, but once all lives are gone, there's no continues or passwords, forcing players back to the beginning. It's a punishing loop, emphasizing patience and memorization over power fantasy. The official manual even describes a quirky feature. Pressing up transforms Swamp Thing into objects like a tree, apple, tire, or flower, while select reverts him. Each form, however, costs valuable energy, making it more novelty than strategy. Contemporary and respective reviews were harsh. Comicbookvideogames.com Blair Farrell wrote, "Your character moves incredibly slow. Jumping feels just as stiff as Swamp Thing's snail-paced movement." Honest Gamers described it even more vividly. He walks as though he's wading through waist-deep fine sand. Enemies include Arcane's creations, Dr. Demo, Weed Killer, Skin Man, and finally Anton Arcane himself. But even these encounters couldn't save the experience from criticism. As Questicle.net put it, a repetitive platforming affair, offering negligible combat and tedious amounts of leaping. A Game FAQ's reviewer echoed the sentiment. Swamp Thing had minimal range and speed, and the many jumps he had to make weren't helped by less than ideal controls. Ultimately, for many players, the hardest enemy wasn't Arcane, it was the controls themselves. The soundtrack by Mark Van Heck aimed for an ominous swampy tone, but was limited by the NES sound chip. Critics at the time and retro reviewers later listed the music amongst the game's weaker elements. One summary called out its high difficulty, poor music, and dull gameplay. Listening today, you'll hear short looping melodies trying to evoke the swamp's mood. Though without the dynamic range later consoles could offer, repetition defined the score, and for many players, that monotony only reinforced the game's slow pacing. In short, composed with ambition, constrained by the hardware, remembered more for what it couldn't do than what it achieved. When Swamp Thing released in late 1992, it landed with barely a ripple. Electronic Gaming Monthly scored it 3.25 out of 10, while Nintendo Power mentioned it in its Now Playing section without a formal review, a quiet omission that spoke volumes. Years later, retrospectives were far less forgiving. In 2014, comicbookvideogames.com called it one of the single worst licensed games ever made, slamming its sluggish controls and uneven difficulty. Questicle.net echoed that sentiment. It reused Bart vs. the Space Mutants engine. On Honest Gamers, Joseph Schaefer was blunt. Who rehashes an engine from a poorly received game? That in itself shows the developer's lack of interest in the title. As I've said before, fans deserve better than this. Even user reviews on Moby Games and Games FAQ average around 5 out of 10. The NES game faded quickly, remembered mostly by collectors and retro fans as one of THQ's rougher releases. But it wouldn't be the last time Swamp Thing appeared on a cartridge, just the first stumble in a long, uneven gaming history. While remembered for its flaws, it's a part of a larger story. An era when nearly every comic book character, no matter how obscure, was handed a cartridge and a deadline. It's not a great game, but it remains an honest artifact of its time. A low-budget echo of a hero who deserved more than 8 bits could ever offer. In the same year as its NES counterpart, Swamp Thing crept onto the Game Boy, not as a simple port, but as a completely different game. Developed by Equilibrium Inc. and published once again by THQ, this handheld version was built from the ground up for Nintendo's portable system, with its own mechanics, stages, and creative team. Released in November 1992, this version aimed to capitalize on the lingering momentum of the animated series, while adapting to the Game Boy's limitations. The Game Boy version of Swamp Thing was developed by Team Equilibrium, under THQ and Imagineering Inc., released in 1992 as a portable companion to the NES title. Programming was led by Timothy H. Mensch, with Christian Dana Perry serving as co-designer and project manager. Ricky and Crocky, Jody Sather-Friedman, Wilfredo Aguela, and Jim Wiebmer handled art and animation, while Ed Bogus composed the music and sound, bringing his trademark style from Garfield and Friends and Heathcliff. Dan Filnier oversaw game system design, and Chris Garrissey managed testing and quality assurance. Project management was handled by Jack Thornton alongside Christian Dana Perry, rounding out the compact but experienced team. Like many THQ projects of the early 90s, this was a quick turnaround tie-in timed with the Swamp Thing animated series and toy line. Not a reinvention, but a handheld adaptation built to carry the same eco-hero message in a simpler portable form. If you'd like to know more about the Swamp Thing animated series and its toy line, I covered all of that in my earlier video, The Rise, Fall and Future of Swamp Thing. You can check that out for a deeper look at how those projects came together. The story again follows Alec Holland's transformation into Swamp Thing, and his battle against Anton Arcane and the Unmen. But this time, the mission extends far beyond the swamp. According to the DC database and the original manual, Swamp Thing travels across environmentally damaged regions. The Arctic, desert, and contaminated rainforest, each symbolizing a different form of ecological destruction. Players can choose which area to tackle first, rescuing wildlife,
Don't do it to me!
and collecting recyclable materials to restore the planet's health and unlock the final confrontation. Gameplay combines basic side-scrolling combat with light environmental rescue mechanics. Swamp Thing attacks using punches or a ranged bioblast, though every shot drains energy unless recovered. A secondary gauge tracks the planet's health, replenished by helping animals or clearing pollution scattered throughout each stage. Each level ends with either a boss encounter or a timed escape. Critics describe the controls as stiff and the challenge uneven, though most agreed it was at least a slight improvement over the NES version. Comic Book Video Games summed it up bluntly: another bad Swamp Thing game. The best thing that can be said about this one is that it isn't as expensive as the NES game by a wide margin. The Game Boy's manual adds a few details missing from reviews. Swamp Thing can collect special icons that temporarily boost strength or restore power, and the health meter doubles as both life and ammo. But like its console cousin, there are no continues. Once your lives are gone, it's back to the start. The soundtrack by Ed Bogus leans on short looping melodies, lighter and more melodic than the NES version's ominous drones, yet still repetitive. Reviewers found it serviceable but forgettable. No official record exists for the sound driver or hardware tools used. But the results feel like the rest of the game, modest, functional, and clearly produced on a tight schedule. When Swamp Thing launched on the Game Boy, Nintendo Power gave it modest category scores. 2.5 out of 5 for graphics, 2.4 out of 5 for controls, and 2.3 out of 5 for challenge, placing it firmly in the middle of the pack territory. Later retrospectives echoed the same verdict. Moby Games user reviews average around 46%, describing it as playable but painfully generic. Today, Swamp Thing the Game Boy version survives mainly as a collector's curiosity, a smaller, slightly more ambitious sibling to the NES game. It introduced new settings, a fresh soundtrack, and a dash of environmental flair, but it still couldn't rise above the limits of its quick license production. After the NES and Game Boy versions, Swamp Thing was poised to make the leap to 16-bit consoles. THQ licensed a Genesis version through a small British studio called Microsmiths, with plans for publication under New Vision Entertainment. Development began around 1992, aiming for the release the following year. The Genesis build wasn't just a straight port. It introduced a new mechanic, allowing Swamp Thing to morph into nearby objects, like logs or vines, to avoid enemies or reach new areas. Gameplay otherwise stayed true to the 8-bit formula: slow, side-scrolling action, melee punches, and environmental hazards. According to players who've tested the leaked prototype, controls remained stiff, hit detection was unreliable, and the soundtrack minimal. Only one looping music track plays through the entire build, an eerie placeholder left unfinished when development halted. A prototype ROM eventually surfaced on the Sega Age forums in November 2010. Featuring parallax backgrounds, redrawn sprites, and new animation frames, but the same gameplay core as before. Credits listed are producer Sam Kielman, sound effects Sean Kielman, design and programming Rex Bradford and Mark Lesser, graphics George Carilius, and music Advanced Audio Productions. The project likely died due to the weak sales of the NES and Game Boy versions, which left THQ reluctant to bankroll another adaptation.
Fuck.
Even unfinished, the Genesis version remains fascinating, a better looking, slightly faster, but still deeply flawed echo of THQ's earlier missteps. Alongside the Genesis project, THQ also announced the Super Nintendo version of Swamp Thing. Retail catalogs and early magazine listings in 1992 suggested it was in pre-production, but no screenshots, builds, or staff credits were ever surfaced. Preservation site SNES Central classifies it among the platform's many unreleased licensed tie-ins. Titles greenlit for marketing but cancelled before programming ever began. No developer team was ever formally assigned before cancellation, and no composer or director information exists. Most historians believe the SNES version would have mirrored the Genesis build. A 16-bit remake of the NES game with a higher resolution spirits, parallax backgrounds, and an upgraded soundscape. But before development moved beyond paperwork, THQ's Swamp Thing experiment was shut down entirely. With both the Genesis and Super Nintendo titles cancelled, Swamp Thing's console journey ended in 1993. For nearly 25 years, the character vanished from gaming altogether. No sequels, no cameos, no remasters. The 8-bit games faded into obscurity, and the 16-bit projects became a little more than trivia for collectors and historians. Even after the cancelled 16-bit games, Swamp Thing never completely vanished from video games. He just rooted himself in smaller appearances across other DC titles. From MMOs to LEGO Adventures, the Guardian of the Green quietly lived on, taking shape wherever developers could plant him, sometimes as a hero, sometimes as an ally, but always as a force of nature waiting to grow again. Scribblenauts Unmasked, a DC Comics adventure 2013. On PC, Wii U, and Nintendo 3DS, developed by 5th Cell and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment. Scribblenauts Unmasked let players summon almost any DC character imaginable. And yes, Swamp Thing made the cut. He doesn't have a voice actor or story role here, but as the summonable creation, he can be written into puzzles, battles. He isn't the star of this world. He's an idea, the literal embodiment of nature you can call upon with a few typed words. Lego Batman 3 Beyond Gotham 2014. 1 year later, Swamp Thing got to stretch his vines again, this time in Lego form. He's fully playable and voiced by JB Blank, who fans might recognize from Batman Arkham Origins as Bane, Breaking Bad as Dr. Gary Goodman, and Apex Legends Caustic.
Take me for a sap? He'll just lead me down the garden path.
Players unlock him by completing a Poison Ivy side quest in the Hall of Doom. In Lego Batman 3, Swamp Thing doesn't have complex combos or ranged attacks. Instead, he uses his strength to punch through enemies, lift and throw boulders, and break environmental objects with ease. For many players, especially the younger ones, this was their first introduction to the character. Lego may have simplified him, but the essence remained, a powerful monster born from the soil, wielding the full force of nature with a towering Lego build.
For years, he'd been stealing the powers of Earth's protectors, but we were too busy fighting amongst ourselves to see the danger. With you three dead, Brainiac quickly eliminated the remaining heroes. The lucky ones died fighting. Finally, I alone survived, a rat in the walls of the...
James Gunn.
I have traveled through time to warn you. This is my past, but your future. And it means the end of humanity, so together, we must change it!
What have you done?
Ozzy given you a fighting chance.
He's lying. It's some kind of trap. Why should we trust you?
Because if you don't, Earth is doomed.
The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
DC Universe Online 2011 to present. Available on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. DC Universe Online was developed by Daybreak Game Company, formerly Sony Online Entertainment, and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment. In this long-running MMO, Swamp Thing takes on a more spiritual role. He's featured as a recurring NPC, tied to the game's spring seasonal event, guiding players through missions to cleanse Gotham's pollution and restore balance to nature. Heroes report to Swamp Thing while villains answer to Poison Ivy, a perfectly thematic pairing. He's voiced by Chalembe Washington, giving him a grounded, patient tone that fits his mythic calm.
You will become fertilizer for her children.
It's not a flashy role, but it's one of the few that consistently bring him back each year. A digital tradition that makes him a part of the DC Universe Online's lived-in ecosystem.
We all fight for something.
You're crazy. I'm not.
Infinite Crisis 2015. Developed by Turbine Inc. and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Media, Infinite Crisis released on PC in 2015 as Warner Bros. Short-lived multiplayer MOBA. In this version, Swamp Thing returns as a fully playable champion, classified as an enforcer-type unit, who can entangle foes with his vine leash. teleport via his Husk ability, and his ultimate form, Warrior King. He receives a large boost to his powers, increasing attack speed, granting immunity to slows, splash damage, and healing. The ultimate Warrior King of the Green, protector of the natural balance. He was voiced by Michael Dorn, the legendary actor behind Star Trek's Worf, whose deep bass made the character feel like an elemental guardian with centuries of wisdom.
Alec Holland is dead. Now I am the Swamp Thing.
Sadly, the game itself shut down after a year, but for a brief moment, players could finally command the Green in full HD, voiced by one of sci-fi's greats. LEGO DC Supervillains 2018 Justice League Dark DLC Pack. Swamp Thing returned once more as a part of the Justice League Dark DLC pack. He joined Constantine, Satana, Etrigan, and Spectre, finally positioned amongst characters who shared his supernatural roots. Released across multiple platforms, LEGO DC Supervillains were developed by Traveler's Tales, published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment.
Is he your superhero?
Yes.
This version builds on his LEGO Batman 3 model, but gives him new animations and moves, fittingly tying him to DC's mystical lineup. Fred Tatasciore is listed for voicing Swamp Thing in this DLC. The performance keeps his earthy humor and quiet strength intact. It's brief, but it's a small acknowledgement that by the late 2010s, Swamp Thing was finally being treated as a part of DC's supernatural core, not a forgotten relic. Injustice 2 Mobile 2017, developed by NetherRealm Studios and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment.
Gonna die right now. Don't just stand there! Alright, you next? What you mean I'm next? I mean, you about to get what he got. No, I'm not. You about to get what he got. Put your...
Injustice 2 Mobile built upon its predecessor with improved visuals, expanded story elements, and deeper progression systems. Players could collect, upgrade, and battle teams of heroes and villains across campaigns, online arenas, and limited time events. 4 years after his quiet support card debut, Swamp Thing finally returned with form and purpose, now as a primal Swamp Thing, a fully playable Gold Tier 3 base star hero. According to the Injustice 2 mobile wiki, his shards are obtainable through Campaign Chapter 8 and Hero Chest, marking his first full combat appearance on mobile, voiced by Fred Tatasciore. Community players describe his gameplay as slow and deliberate, a tank-style brawler centered on endurance, regeneration, rather than speed or gadgetry. While not the most agile fighter, his durability and healing abilities make him a dependable cornerstone for defense team builds. His inclusion helped expand the mobile roster, with a nature-based powerhouse reaffirming Swamp Thing's place among DC's modern digital heroes.
It's a win for the Justice League Dark Team.
DC Legends 2016, developed and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment.
Never go full retard.
Uh-oh! Retard alert! Oh my god. Retard alert, class! Oh my god. Do you believe in a flying spaghetti monster too, Bubblehead? Oh my god, he on X Games mode.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
DC Legends launched on iOS and Android as a turn-based strategy RPG where players assemble and upgrade squads of heroes and villains across the DC universe. Swamp Thing appears as a durable support-orientated character recognized for his health regeneration ability and his value in defense or sustain-based team compositions. According to community guides, he excels at restoring health over time and reinforcing allies rather than dealing direct damage. No credited voice actors listed for Swamp Thing in DC Legends. Like most characters in the game, he uses brief combat grunts and ambient effects instead of full dialogue. His inclusion added a nature-based support option to the roster, fitting his traditional role as a resilient protector within DC's lineup of heroes. DC Worlds Collide 2025. Developed by WB Games San Francisco and published under Warner Bros. Entertainment.
Did you like playing with my new Royal Flush gang?
Can't say that I did.
Yeah, they aren't any fun at all. I gave them their powers and they still hardly ever play with me.
Can't imagine why.
When I was little, Hollywood used to make me play all kinds of games, but they weren't any fun either. They'd strap me into their machines and poke wires into my brain. Ace, can you move this object with your mind? Yeah, I can move it. They weren't really games, you know. They were training me, turning me into a weapon for justice, they said. They got their weapon. I got cheated out of my childhood.
I know what that's like.
You do, don't you? You don't have to answer. I read your mind. That's how I knew you weren't going to use Mrs. Waller's weapon on me.
No, I wasn't.
You were going to try and talk me into fixing what I've changed. Before I die.
Yes.
I'm dying very soon.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Could you stay with me? I'm scared.
DC Worlds Collide brought Swamp Thing into its lineup on October 22, 2025, marking his latest arrival in the mobile strategy RPG space. Within the game, Swamp Thing appears as a legendary tactical tank-type hero built around poison and regeneration. His basic attack scales with existing poison stacks on enemies. When attacked, he inflicts additional poison in return. His ability, Bark Armor, increases his team's defense, and at a higher level, he can heal allies, while his ultimate, the Strength of Green, strikes all enemies, applies and amplifies poison, and heals the entire team when the enemy side carries 10 or more total poison stacks. Community players describe Swamp Thing as a defense powerhouse, slower than most attackers but unmatched in sustain, team protection, and synergy with other poison-based heroes. His arrival cements the Greens present in modern-day mobile strategy, a living reminder that nature may wait but it always returns. Swamp Thing headlined a limited-time event banner that began on October 23, 2025, offering increased drop rates throughout the campaign. After the event period, he was added to the standard legendary and weekly recruitment pools. The update also launched the Poison Season, where Swamp Thing served as a central figure, an event themed around toxin-based heroes and builds. As of today, DC's Worlds Collide represents Swamp Thing's most recent active role in gaming, a gacha-style strategy title where players recruit him through limited-time events and command him as the Green's enduring tank on mobile. These cameos might seem small, but together they form a quiet resurrection. Across puzzles, MMOs, MOBAs, and LEGO universes, Swamp Thing evolved from forgotten tie-in hero to respected part of DC's ensemble. Even when he wasn't center stage, the Green found a way to live on, a slow, patient revival that would finally accumulate in his return to glory with Injustice 2.
Only that between my prey and me.
From the mug I rise, from the K I bloom. Lil Wayne wrote the roots, Ryson gave me doom. Fans in the green still hold that torch. From the bog to the city, I guard that porch. Root grab hit, drag 'em under the mouse. Fine blast shoot, nature never lost. Tree slam, crush, whole crowd go quake. Green or glow, can't fake what I make. Swamp Thing, you are amazing. Fight everything, earth breathe through me, I'm the king of spring. Fan car ride, no suit, no cape. Just the power of the sword that can't escape. Wine and rice in, legends in the grind. Every fan in the mud still shouting that line. From the swamp we rise, no fame we chase. Only true roots in the fan base. Swamp Thing, you are amazing. From the green we rise, eternal blazing.
After decades of cameos, cancellations, and forgotten cartridges, Swamp Thing finally rose from the mire into modern gaming, fully realized, fully voiced, and fully respected. Developed by NetherRealm Studios, the team behind Mortal Kombat, and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment, Injustice 2 was directed by Ed Boon, with writing led by Dominic Chunchalo.
Gotcha, bitch.
Got him! Got him!
I just wanted my Swamp Thing.
Injustice 2 was directed by Ed Boon, with writing led by Dominic Chunchalo and Sean Kittleson, veterans known for bringing cinematic weight to the Mortal Kombat series. Their goal was clear: make every fighter feel like a story unto themselves, and for Swamp Thing, that meant transforming a cult horror icon into an elemental force of balance in a world gone mad. In Injustice 2, Swamp Thing is voiced by Fred Tatasciore, whose deep, resonant performance gives the character a grounded mythic presence. Story-wise, he's neither villain nor hero, he's the conscious of the planet itself. When Batman's insurgent and Superman's regime tear the Earth apart, Swamp Thing warns both sides that their war is destroying the green. At first, he fights the heroes, mistaking them for another human threat to nature, but when Brainiac arrives, he joins the resistance, realizing that saving life means protecting the green's connection to all creation. His lines are poetic and measured, like the whisper of an ancient forest.
It cannot be. Yes, I am Alec Holland. A ghost from my past.
In gameplay, Swamp Thing embodies everything his mythology promises: creative, tanky, and unstoppable once he takes hold. He's a zoning-based brawler, built to control space rather than chase opponents. His signature abilities include Vine Grab, lashes out with a long-range attack that drags enemies back into striking distance, Log Kick, brutal mid-range attacks using chunks of earth and debris, Abigail's Garden, summons creeping vines beneath his opponent, damaging and slowing them, a literal manifestation of the green taking control of the battlefield. He even fights on his own stage, Swamp Thing Swamp, a dripping moss-covered arena of fog and fireflies filled with interactive elements like vine throws and environmental slams. Every detail reinforces his theme: patient, deliberate dominance over a living ecosystem. Injustice 2 was a critical and commercial hit, averaging 87 out of 100 across reviews and earning praise for its deep story and character variety. While Swamp Thing wasn't the flashiest pick, critics and fans alike appreciated his originality. GQ wrote, "You get your ass beat by Swamp Thing. It's all over the place and it's great."
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Among players, reactions were mixed but respectful. On game FAQs, fans called him underrated, but fun once you master his zoning game, while others admitted his slower pace made him a challenge for beginners. Even so, his presence was seen as symbolic, proof that NetherRealm wasn't afraid to give a horror-driven character the same attention as Batman or Superman. With Injustice 2, Swamp Thing transcended the status of a forgotten tie-in relic. He became cinematic, a hero with motion capture, philosophy, and purpose. It wasn't just a cameo comeback, it was the Green reborn in Next Gen. The earlier games failed, the cameos kept him alive, and Injustice 2 finally gave him the voice, the presence, and the power he always deserved. He's proof that some legends don't fade, they just wait to grow back.
Ah, Swamp Thing, you are amazing!
Do you believe? Lost tapes.
I think Swamp Thing deserves more games, simple as that. Whether it's 8-bit, 16-bit, or full 4K realism, there's no reason he should stay buried. In an era where superhero media dominates everything, movies, shows, merch, and mobile apps, a character like Swamp Thing has more potential than ever. People forget that the old 8-bit and 16-bit superhero games weren't built on huge budgets, they were built on creativity. Every hero had a story, a unique mechanic, and a little heart behind it. That's all you need. Today, with how powerful game engines are, a small team could build something beautiful, an atmospheric, story-driven Swamp Thing game that blends horror, nature, and emotion. It could be pixel art, it could be Unreal Engine 5, it doesn't matter. What matters is the vision and the respect for the lore. Even mobile games could pull it off, if studios stopped chasing gacha systems and gambling mechanics and focused instead on story. A single story-based Swamp Thing mobile title like the narrative games of the 90s could easily stand out in a flooded market. If handled right, the Swamp Thing video game today could blow people away. He's got everything a modern audience craves. Mystery, moral weight, and a world that mirrors our own destruction of nature. And that's why I believe he's one of the few DC heroes who could truly redefine what a superhero game can be. Not just about power, but also about purpose.
What is the green? A power you will never control. All power can be controlled.
The future belongs to the fans, to the ones who care enough to build, to demand, and to dream. If we keep pushing for more from game studios, Swamp Thing games can rise again in ways no one expects. Because when fans support each other, when we rally around the character we love, we can move mountains, and that's how legends grow. With voice actors George Newbern, the voice of Superman in Injustice, and Phil Lamar, the voice of Jon Stewart Green Lantern in Injustice, confirming that Injustice 3 is in development, the timing couldn't be better to make noise, to show that the legendary Guardian deserves to return. Whether through a full-scale fighting game, a haunting narrative journey, or a modern reimagining of those 16-bit classics, his presence would feel like a return to something we've been missing. A hero with soul, weight, and wonder. When fans support good video games that actually care about us, about the story, about the lore, the meaning, we should support them back. But when we don't demand better, that's when companies start taking advantage of us, because let's be honest, gaming is the biggest form of media in the world right now. It makes more money than movies, music, and television combined. And with that kind of power, it's easy to get lost in greed. Big studios forget why we fell in love with games in the first place: the heart, the art, and the passion. But here's the thing, we the fans have power too. We have the tools, the creativity, and the courage to bring our own ideas to life. So if you're sitting there thinking your vision is too small, too weird, or too niche, it's not. As long as there's love behind it, as long as it comes from the heart, the fans will always show up to have your back. Look at Batman Arkham Asylum, a game that started with just 40 people at Rocksteady Studios, but through passion and vision it became one of the most celebrated superhero games ever made. Or The Punisher 2005. Not a critical hit at launch, but it earned lasting cult status, because the fans never let it die. Then came Marvel's Spider-Man on PS5, a game built with heart and respect for its hero.
No, not you, Seamus.
Proving that when creators care, players feel it. And now, Marvel's Wolverine is in development at Insomniac, a project fans have been demanding for years, and anticipation is higher than ever. That's proof when fans rally, studios listen. So this is a message for the big companies, the publishers, the studios, the gaming industry itself. Don't forget who built this. Don't forget who stayed loyal through every glitch, delay, and reboot. We are here, and we will always be here. Whether it's live action, 8-bit, 16-bit, or 4K realism, because if there's one thing the fans know, it's that Swamp Thing deserves better. Always.
Rise up from the dust and the silence of lies. Fans
Thank you so much for all the support on my last videos. I'm still figuring things out, and honestly, I'm learning everything as I go. Seeing people watch, comment, and enjoy what I make, it's a feeling I can't even describe. It's surreal, almost like an out-of-body experience. I really mean it when I say every bit of support keeps me going. It means so much more than you might realize. From the bottom of my green-loving swampy heart, thank you again, truly. I'd also love to hear your thoughts, ideas, and suggestions. What kind of genre do you think a Swamp Thing game should have? Or do you think he shouldn't have one at all? Or do you have a favorite superhero you'd love to see get a proper video game treatment? And how would you want it done? Let me know. And your comments and suggestions truly help shape this channel, so any input is gratitude and deeply appreciated. Well, until next time, stay rooted in the green. This is Beta Mandius, Sovereign of Controllers, signing off from the swamp.
Works with the core. We love. We rebuild.